We're very, very pleased to have our guests here. There are two items on the agenda. The first is the magnet process, and then we have a wonderful presentation from your neighborhood school, quite possibly, which is Palms Middle School. So, I know that people have things to do, so I will not delay. I'm going to introduce Arlene Weissman, and she is going to give a presentation on the magnet process.
Okay, well, I don't know quite where to start. I mean, because I'm sure all of you have different levels of knowledge about the magnet. So why don't we start with just one person asking a question, and so that we can start off and kind of see who knows what, so that I don't, start from the very, very beginning. Is there anybody who has a specific question?
I would like to know from the e-choices, if I pick more than one school, how do they go about it? Like, would my first choice be the one they go through first and then they go to the second, or it doesn't matter
Okay, so we're at, I see you've already understand the program, but that's a point right now. So I'll go back and I'll start. So in the 1970s, and I'm going way back, the magnet program was started as an integration program, and that is simply what it is still. It is the only program in the city that provides busing from one school, from one place to another. If your child lives beyond 5 miles of the school that you're going to attend, then you are entitled to busing. Okay? It's beyond 5 miles. And the reason for the application process is to allow everyone in the city, everyone, whether you go to a private school or a charter school or a public school, to have the right to choose a school that you might want your child to go to. And the process by which you get to go to the school that you want to is through a point system. It's a point system, and it's a system that's based on ethnicity. So the points become a lottery. So the more points you have, the better chance you have, supposedly, to get into the school that you want to. But some people say, well, how come I had all these points? I accrued, the most is 24, 23. And so the most, you say, oh, well, I have 16 points. How come I didn't get in and my neighbor got in? And you have to look at the fact that it is also based on the fact that ethnicity plays a part in choosing the students. So from early on, you guys playing this game, some of you understand it, some of you don't, that about second grade, you start applying to a magnet school. And it is through what's known as the e-choices. That's what they named it. It's the e-choices. The choices brochure used to be sent to your home. It no longer is sent to your home. It will be. It's all online. The last 2 years, it's been online. You can find some brochures. I'm not sure if your school has any, but certainly the magnet office has some. This is kind of weird, but they've just had a contest now to find out how many places you can find magnet brochures. So they're in the libraries, the public libraries. They're obviously downtown at any school building. They may even be in the post offices, I'm not sure. They just told me they're on the Metro line. People have seen them on the bus stops and the train stops. But what they want you to do is apply online, because they can also get your information and shoot you back a confirmation number right away, so that there's no mail that's involved. The brochure is telling you what the schools do, what they specialize in, and sometimes there's a little blurb that's put out by the school that goes under the name. It is divided into gifted, highly gifted, performing arts, science, technology, and so on. So, and elementary school, middle school, and high school. So it's easy for you to go directly to the area that you are interested in. Look at the schools that are available. Now again, when I started to tell you about the amount of points and percentage of ethnicity, schools have usually what we call a 70-30 balance. 70% minority and 30% Caucasian. Palms happens to be one of 2 or 3 schools in the district where it's a little bit different. We have a 60-40 balance. We have a 60% minority and a 40% Caucasian. Now, you have to understand that minority means every minority, what the district believes is minority, is all together. So it's not that somebody is African American and Hispanic and Asian are separate. They're all kind of, for the district, for intensive purposes, everybody who has put down of what, when you make a choice, so that all minorities outside of Caucasian is put into one group. So when schools begin to get students, they get students who are minority students and students who are Caucasian students, up into that percentage. Okay. Now, in terms of points, let me just go points. Points, you get 4 points for applying to a school. You'll get 4 points that year for applying to them, what we call a FABAO school. And just about every school in the district is a FABAO school, which means it's primarily minority. So you get those points. You will get 4 points if it's overcrowded. And I can tell you there's maybe about 2 schools in the whole district that are overcrowded, and certainly nothing on the west side. So those 4 points are kind of have been out there, and people have not really been getting those 4 points for quite a few years. And you can get 3 points if you have a sibling that is going to be attending the school at the same time that the second child or the third child is going to be at the school. Okay, so yeah.
Is Castle Heights the feeder school, and if that's the case, do you get points for that as well?
You will get points for, if you're going to a middle school, for what middle school you're going to, what you would be going to. Okay, so whatever year you're going into, so let's say those students who are now in 8th grade at Palms, their home high school is the school that will give them the points, basically. So that answers your question. Okay. So here we have these points. Lots of parents are trying to figure out when should they start having points, when, what's going to happen, and how and where to apply. So if you're not in the 5th grade right now, and maybe if you're parents of younger children, some people start at 2nd grade, so they will get points for the 3rd grade and the 4th grade and the 5th grade, and by the time they're in 5th grade, they'll have 12 points, and then they'll be able to apply out. You can only hold on to 12 points. You will get your 16 points the year that you apply out if you have 12 points in 5th grade. Then your 4 extra points will come when you apply out, because your home middle school will be a FABAO school, and so those 4 points will be added to it. So when you're in the pool for whatever school you're going to apply to, you will have 16 points. Now, if you're, I'll go back over any of this in a minute, but if you're in doubt of how many points you have, simply call the magnet office and let them know that you have not gotten your letter, because most students get a letter in the springtime, and it allows you to know how many points you've already accrued. Now, if it's not consecutive, because some parents come in and they say, I don't understand, I've been doing this for so many years, and I say, okay, we'll go call the district and find out why. And they say, oh yeah, last year, or I had a broken arm and I totally forgot to put it in. Well, you didn't do it every year then. It's not, the district has real strict rules about being consecutive. And so that's an issue. Somebody had a question.
Never mind.
Question.
Okay, go ahead.
How do you figure out which school I want my son to stay in so that I can go to school?
Okay, I was just going to come to that. Okay, I was just going to come to that. Well, you know, it's changed, and it changes every year. Traditionally, years ago when I started, it was years ago, people would say, oh, I'll never get into community, so I'm going to put down community, and I'll be assured that I can stay in Castle Heights or Clover or Overland forever until my kid graduates, and then all of a sudden, one year, community needs somebody and needs kids, and they get to the wait list, and then you get called, and then you lose your points because you have a big decision. Your child is here, you love this school, what do I do? So I can't advise you on that. I can just tell you that's a big decision to move your child at any time when they have friends and when you like the school, you like the community. There are opportunities, though, that if you do lose your points, because of the way the city is moving, because of the way new schools have come about, new charters have come about, new pilot schools have come about, that some of the traditional schools that you would normally, apply to, let's say Palms or Revere or whatever, there are more spots opening. So it's not an absolute close to say, oh, if I don't have 16 points, I won't get into Palms. We do have kids on our wait list that have 16 points, but there are other times when we have students that have 10 points or 8 points that we can take in, or even less. So I would not say, don't follow your heart, don't stay where you feel comfortable, instead of just going to a new school. Now, there are schools, when you look at the Choices brochure, you will see schools, I think it's, Sepulveda? I mean, they have well over 1,000, 1,500 applicants, and they only have spots for maybe 90 or something like that. So that's in the booklet. You don't want to look at a school that has 200 openings and they only get 300 applicants, because if you've got points, you're going there. I mean, that you're going to get called. But if you take a school that like SOSUS that has 2,000 applications, and you see that they're only going to take in 106 elementary school kids or something like that, that's a greater possibility. Is it a promise? No, that's going to happen.
Following up on that question, let's say our parents decide they don't want to play the points game, and they get into Palms Honors because that is our middle
Exactly.
school, right?
Right.
Are we, first of all, guaranteed a spot in Palms Honors? And second of all, how easy is it to shift from Palms Honors to Magnet for those that want to gain points going into Hamilton?
Okay, so now there's two schools here. So you have the ability to come to Palms. You have that wonderful ability to come to Palms without applying anywhere. You can just move into the class. In terms of deciding whether your child is going into honors or the general ed program, that's going to come with your child's CST scores and your CUME, and all the information comes to the counselor, and you come and visit the counselor perhaps in the spring and say, my child really is, works at an honors level, and your child will be placed in an appropriate class. How you get into the magnet through there is still through the application process. So that year, you would still be applying to the magnet, and then you would either get in or you would stay in the honors program, or you'd stay in whatever program that's appropriate for your child, and then the next year you can apply to the magnet. You might get in, you might not get in, but if you don't get in, you would get those turn down points, which is what you're really trying to do is for high school.
When you're applying, like let's say if you're in fifth grade, you want to apply both Palms Magnet and LACES. Does it matter which one you put first? Is that going to be the one that you'll likely get into? Does it just depend on space? Like how do you determine which one?
Okay, so here it comes. Last year, they decided to give the parents choices up to 3 choices. And there's different thinking on this. When we get together as magnet coordinators, we all kind of agree that unless you really don't care which of the 3 schools or the 2 schools that you choose two schools or 3 schools. But if you're just doing it because the brochure says to, or you're afraid you're not going to get into the first one, but you don't really want to go to that second one, don't put it down. Only put down one school, because you either get into a school or you go back and you wait on the first school's wait list. Okay? So if, let's say you put down LACES and then you put down Palms. Let's say you did not get into LACES, you would not immediately go on LACES wait list. You would be sent to Palms list. Now, if Palms is filled in up with all their first choice people, your name will go back to LACES wait list. If Palms has room, you will go to Palms. And you'll be in the same situation as this parent has just said. You have a choice. If you really didn't want to go to Palms, but you got chosen to Palms, if you don't go to Palms, you will lose your points. You do not go back to LACES wait list. Okay?
So you should only put the one that you really want.
If you don't care whether you go to LACES or Palms or Revere, choose 3. And if you get into one, you get into one. You may get into none and just sit on LACES wait list if that's your first choice.
But then where does your kid go to school?
Where does your child go to school? Now there's a question for you. Your child will go to their home school, or they will go to, because you will be wise enough to apply to Palms SAS program in the spring, or some charter school. Then you have to start making sure that you cover your bases. And I do suggest that. I suggest when you're applying to magnet schools, cover your bases, apply in the spring to SAS programs, and apply to a charter if that's where you want a possibility where you want your child to go.
Just to expand on what you were just saying, if you put, for example, LACES as your number 1 choice and Palms Magnet for your number 2 choice, and you have 12 points going in, is it true that all 12 of your points go to your first choice, and you go in with 0 points to the Palms Magnet?
The second one.
Okay.
Second choice, whatever.
Okay. If you apply to LACES and you have 12 points, probably won't get in, but if you have 12 points, and let's imagine that here you are, and then this second choice is Palms, okay? So if you get into LACES, great, fine, that's it. If you don't get into LACES, your name, your application will go to Palms, okay? But your application will come after all the people that have already chosen Palms as first choice. If there is still room, you will get into Palms. If you don't, and you don't have a third choice, your name will flip back and be on the wait list at LACES. So then you will have no magnet school that's choosing you at that point. And then that's where the decision becomes. Do I go back to Palms and do I say, I want to fill out an SAS application? Do I want to do a walk-in application? By the way, there are no late applications this year. Okay, so it's either November 15th or you have to wait until the school opens a walk-in list. Okay, there's no late list. Normally let's say in December, you could still hand in an application and it would be considered, we'd get our active list, then we would get a late list, and we'd get a late list, and then in the spring, we would open up a walk-in list. There's no more. You get your application in November 15th, or you wait until the walk-in lists open up at schools.
I would say most of our families the homeschool is Palms.
Right, so you have a great,
Yeah,
great,
and just so you guys know, we have 8th graders, but that year we had a family with twins. They had one in the honors and one in the magnet program. So we got to see firsthand, apples to apples, how the two programs compared. And it was the same. They're different teachers, but the curriculum, the quality of education is the same. And
Right.
the teachers all teach.
the honors, the SAS, and the magnet. Some of the teachers teach all across, and they also teach regular general ed teachers. Some of them have those classes. So everybody, can't say every teacher is teaching across the board, but a teacher who's going to teach period 1 magnet and period 2 SAS honors, that's going to be a homeschool student coming through, is teaching the same lesson and at the same level, because those children are all qualified as the same. And I put out some papers over there in terms of, if you just go on into the brochure onto echoices.lausd.net, you will see what qualifies you to be identified as gifted in the district. And it's 3 ways. And that's the same qualifications for the SAS program and for the honors program. The only difference is with the SAS and honors is that the district is not really involved. Well, they are in some ways, but they're not really involved. So if you don't have 2 consecutive years, let's say, in math scores, but you have 4s or 3s in your report card, we can look at that as an SAS or an honors student, and we know where to place your child. The district is very strict on those kinds of things. If it's not consecutive, or you're 1 point off, if you're scoring, if they say 455 and your child scores 453, they're not going to qualify in the district. But I know that Ms. Kuda, with a 454, in math, is going to look at your child as being, capable. All right, go ahead.
Let's say your child is on permit here at Castle Heights, and they don't get identified gifted. Is there a chance that they could permit into POMS in the honors program, or this has to be their goal to get into the honors program?
This has to be, in order to come in through the honors program, through the general ed program, that you have to be part of POMS district. POMS area. But you can apply to the SAS, the permit program. That's a
You have to be
permit.
identified gifted to apply to the SAS program?
Yes. In one of these 3 ways. And teacher identification. One of the 3 ways is teacher identification. So if you have not consecutive scores, let's say, or you have not taken the intellectual testing through the school psychologist, but you believe and the teacher believes that your child can handle the honors program, then that's the way you can fill out the application.
What do you mean school?
What? Yeah, that's what I said, is that if it's not consecutive, or you have, 3s and your child has good effort and the teacher writes the letter.
Hi. So if you have a gifted child, it's your home school, and do you have to fill out 2 separate forms at your school? Like,
Okay.
fill out the magnet application and the honors application?
The honors, you don't have to fill out anything.
Okay.
If this is your home school, your cues are going to go there.
Okay.
The child's records are going to go there.
All right.
But at the same time, you can apply to the magnet.
Okay.
So you can apply to the magnet school, and you can come into the home school.
And that's due?
The magnet application is due November 15th.
And so I can come over to POM to get the forms, or?
You could come over and get the booklet, or you can come over and we can help you do it on the computer. I don't know
And
if
we
you
have the booklets here too.
You have the
You have
booklets
the
here,
booklets here?
but if you want to do it online, we have the computer in the office, and we'll help you walk through it.
Just verify what you said earlier. So if the child applies from the 2nd grade all the way to 5th, they get maximum of 12 points. And if this is their home school, and if they apply to POMS magnet, do they automatically get the 4 magnet points? So they'll have a total of 16 points. Is that it? But let's say if we apply to LACES and we only have 12 points, that would be the maximum that we have, correct?
If you have 12 points in 5th grade and you apply out, you will get 4 points because if Palms is your home middle school, it's a FABAU school, and so you will get those 4 extra points. There are very few schools that are not FABAU, but you can find that out on the district.
I'm sorry, but we would not get those 4 points unless we were not at Palms, or like?
No, you get them, whatever school you apply to. Let's say you decide you're going to apply to, I don't know, John Burroughs. But your home school is Palms.
Right.
Your home middle school is Palms. You will get 4 points for that
So
to
does
go
that mean
towards your.
if we're in 5th grade, we're going in with, and we have 12 points, we're going in with now 16? Okay.
I hear that if you're on the wait list, that often or sometimes you'll be called after school starts. So you've already started your child in a different school,
Right.
and you get called on to the wait list of a visit. If you don't take that spot, even though it's after.
Depends on the time, okay? It used to be, if you didn't take that spot, that was it. But because of all the 3 choices and the walk-in list and all of that, there's a lapse in time. There's a time frame. Let's say if it's almost immediate, in terms of, let's say today the list comes out and you don't accept Palms, you're going to lose your points or something like that. But after a certain number, like after school starts, once norm day comes and so on, the district is not looking to take your points away from you. Everything is, well, I'm going to preface this by saying, what is, or what was, what may be, we don't know. Okay? Because if you ask at any given time, is this the way it is, going to be, they say, well, we think it is, and that's the way it was, but we're not sure. So I am giving you the information as it has been. I'm not here to tell you that it's, it's written in stone, and because they can change anything, so.
Is there a place is this eChoices website, can I have this all explained to me at a 3rd grade level?
You go to the eChoices and the brochure will open up.
Right.
It will tell you, it will drop down, it will tell you exactly the school's choices. You can go to the pages on the website. You can look at each school that you want to apply to. It will tell you the number of applicants. It will tell you how many they took last year and so on. And then it will, when you get to the actual application page, it's like 3 or 4 lines. Most of it is your information that you put in, and then you just make a choice.
And is 3rd grade too late to start collecting points?
No.
Or?
No, it's not. It's never too late. It's never too late. Depending on what school you want to go to and what happens, it's never too late. There are students who can come in with 4 points because, let's say, on that year, we need that student. So that's a parent who, never filled out a choice brochure before their child was going from 5th grade to 6th grade. They said, okay, I'm going to do it, and they do, and they're shocked that they get in. But that's a year that we need, or a school needs that student, and 4 points will get you in.
Where can you find the feeder schools?
The feeders will go online, and you put in your address, and it will tell you the feeder school. Okay, I really want to tell you so much about Palms.
Can you explain the highly gifted applicable thing? Because you cannot apply because those spots are already taken. How does that work in terms of applying to a bunch of schools if you're a HTA?
If you're highly gifted, you can apply.
It's like that one notch, depending if there's spots or something.
When you take the intellectual test, when you take the Raven test, so you get a 99.9 percentile. That qualifies you as highly gifted. So then they moved it down to 99.5 to 99.8 for basically you get more kids in your school. That's, the district says there's just so many kids at 99.9. So if you are 99.5 to 99.8, if the school you are applying to, let's say Portola is a highly gifted magnet school in the Valley, or North Hollywood High, which is a high school, a highly gifted. Let's say they fill up with everybody in 99.9%. Well, your 99.5 isn't going to get in. But traditionally, in the last few years, 99.5 to 99.8, there have been spots. That's basically what you're saying.
But that's primarily high school, not middle school.
No, Portola.
Portola.
Palms is not a highly gifted magnet. It's a gifted high ability magnet. But we have many students that are obviously in the highly gifted, and their parents don't want to travel all the way to Portola.
If you go into a magnet for middle school, have you lost your points to go do one to a high school?
Okay, when you come into a magnet school, we take all your points away from you, so you have no points. So if mid-year you decide to go somewhere else, you have nothing to. You're not going as a magnet student. You have no points. Okay. At the end, when you culminate, we give you your 12 points back.
So you can go into a magnet
High school. Right. So if you are in 7th grade and you decide to leave the magnet to go to Crossroads or some other school or Revere or wherever, you are going not as a magnet student. You will have no magnet points. Okay? The only way you will get those magnet points is when you cross the stage. Or any school, any magnet.
But when you apply for the magnet, because it's gifted, do you only accept kids that are into the gifted?
Okay, this is an important thing, and then I think after you, then I would want my fellow teachers, principal to speak. And then I'll answer any questions afterwards, or you can call me at the office.
I mean, my child isn't in the gifted program, but do you only apply if you are in the gifted?
Okay.
Or
Palms is a gifted magnet. Magnets are themed. So there's music academy magnets, there are performing arts, there's digital media magnets, there's tech magnets, all different kinds of magnets. Ours happens to be gifted. The district says that any gifted magnet, the child must be identified or verified as gifted before November 15th, 2013. Okay? 3 ways that you can be identified is, one is if at some point the school psychologist came out to your school and tested your child and you got that identification. The second one was the CST scores. If you had 2 consecutive years in English and math, or you had 3 consecutive years in single subject, specific subject.
Starting 2nd grade up? Is that starting from 2nd grade and up for that?
Consecutive, yeah. So in other words, and elementary school has this little formula. They put things in a box and they divide it in 4. So if you had 3 years of CST scores, but the 4th year for some reason you went off, you look at the report card, and the report card is 4, and you can plug in that report card. So it's a formula. So it gives more ability for kids to be identified. Now, all of that identification needs to be done before November 15th. And if it has not been done, you're not going to get it done on time, because there's one little person working downtown trying to grade all these papers and trying to do all these things. So that's not the way you can get identified. If you have already been identified, you have that letter from the district, that's great.
If you got tested early this, like a month ago, will the results come in then?
I doubt it. They do say, though, that early November, the first week, we might get our slam dunk list, which means that that's a list that the district has already looked at all of your kids, and they have already said that they are gifted. And that some the principal may have, or your gate coordinator will have, and they'll be able to tell you before November 15th. They believe that that list will be out before November 15th.
Otherwise, does your
The way-
application bounced out?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. If you are not identified through one of those two ways, the district will say, gee, I don't have any information downtown, and they bump your application out and it doesn't go anywhere. It just is over. Now, the way that I suggest, and this is a suggestion, and it really is up to you and the teacher and the principal. The third way of identification, which you can get done probably by November 15th, is a teacher identification. On one of these papers, it says the 4 criteria by which a teacher can identify a student. Critical thinking, creative thinking, self-starter. It's listed. And if your child has consistently worked at that level, that the teacher feels comfortable with your child going to a rigorous academic program, then that's what the teacher can tell principal or your coordinator. And then when your application doesn't get recognized downtown, they will send the principal a list of students from your school, and they'll say, are these students identified as gifted? And then he can say, oh yeah, this teacher, and so on. And then your application continues to
And it
go
must
through.
meet all 4 criteria that the child meets, not one of the 4, but all 4.
Right.
What are they
All the lists
I
online.
gave you the paper, I left some papers there, and also if you go to page 12, 11 or 12, in the brochure, and the brochure's online, you will see exactly what qualifies your child. And,